Hello everyone, my name's Rendi and welcome back to the level 3 1 of 1 series. We have some more unique content today in store, but first, check out this lighting we have in this room and the 2 camera angles just so you can see every side of my face while I talk about RuneScape. I wanted to make sure you all got the greatest views during this entire video. Once again, we're going to be taking on a unique challenge today that no other level 3 has done. I'm known for building trophy accounts, and in this series, once again, there's going to be a lot of trophy accounts. Well, one account specifically, but I want it to be the best account in the business, the best trophy account in the world, and that is this level 3 skiller, which is ultra rare, if I might say so myself. Before we get further into the content though, please consider subscribing to the channel, as that is the easiest way to support me and it costs nothing, and you can stay up to date with the videos. Once again, we're a level 3 combat skiller trying to take on some of the craziest tasks in old school RuneScape. Usually ones that less than a handful have done in the game as level 3 skillers, or even sometimes none besides myself have done. So far, the list of unique achievements on this account is as follows. It's the only level 3 with the Perilous Moons quest completed. It's the only level 3 with Priest and Peril completed. It's the only level 3 with any Theater of Blood kill count on it. It's the only level 3 with barrows kill count. It's the only level 3 with a fire cape and all 1 stats to be specific. It's one of a handful of level 3s left in the game that have Fremennik Trials done, which allows access to all different types of content as well. It's the only level 3 in the game with Lunar Chest KC because of the Perilous Moon completion I did in one of these videos. It's the only level 3 with a hard combat achievement hilt. It's the only level 3 in the game with Aaraxor KC. It's the only level 3 with the meet and greet quest completed. And finally, in our last video, we took on the most difficult challenge yet, and that was just a portion of the Heart of Darkness quest for the untradeable Emissary Robes. I spent over 6 weeks and around 250 hours getting these robes. It consisted of discovery, muscle memory, theory crafting, and much more. Even an insane amount of RNG. So if you missed that video, I'll link that in the description below. You can come back to it. That's probably the best video I've made in the last year, not going to lie. It was definitely my most difficult task. If not on this account, probably in the entire game. Today, once again though, on this account, we'll be striving for perfection, and that's going to be through going for an item that no other level 3 has yet again. And although this might sound insane because no one else has done it, I'm going to be honest with you, this video is going to be more of a casual episode in this series. That's because along with just going for the first level 3 with the Sinhaza Shroud 1 being an untradeable cape, I'm going to also be covering a lot of the gaps I kind of skipped over in the last few videos of me just progressing on this level 3 for some of the tasks I plan to take on later on in this series. The sad part about all of this is because of the thumbnail and the title, this video will probably get more views than the last one, which took me 250 hours. YouTube is officially cooked. Thanks, Mr. Beast. But I hope you all enjoy this laid back episode here, as it is going to be a little bit more casual, and God knows that I need the money. Speaking of which, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's episode, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is a way to learn backend web development from start to finish in the Python and Go programming languages. And it's not just your casual course learning experience. This is almost like an RPG, a game in a way, while you're learning how to code. In my opinion, that's the smartest way to learn code because you're never bored and you stick with it long enough to reach your goals and realize the potential and even just the pure enjoyment of coding. So why I said learning code through Boot.dev is actually like playing an RPG is because you'll earn XP, levels, achievements, and complete quests to get a top spot on their global leaderboards. What I love about Boot.dev is it's technically accessible to anyone. All of the content is free to read and watch in guest mode. A paid membership just unlocks all the interactive features like hands-on coding, AI assistance, progress tracking, and game elements. So they also offer a 30-day, no questions asked refund policy, as well as a free demo of every course and its interactive functions before you purchase. So what are you waiting for? Whether you want to just check out the free readable material or get your hands on the coding with a great and unique learning experience, go ahead and head on over to boot.dev and use my code Rendi to get 25% off your entire first year if you choose the annual plan. Okay, so what is the Sinhaza Shroud? This item that no level 3 has yet achieved. Well, it's an item with multiple tiers from Theater of Blood. Tier 1 is 100 Theater of Blood KC, Tier 2 is 500, Tier 3 is 1000. Because we're the only level 3 with Priest and Peril done, this makes us the only level 3 that has access to Theater of Blood, so we might as well utilize it and get this very unique and tradable item. And once again, I'm the only level 3 that shows up on the high scores under the Skiller high scores for this raid boss. Currently in today's video, and for other reasons you'll find out later, I'm only going to be going for the Shroud 1, which is 100 TOB KC. This will be harder than it sounds, and it will take a lot, and I mean a lot, of money to get this done. The good thing about the requirement KC for the Shroud is that it spans across all different types of Theater of Blood, whether it's hard mode or regular. You can add them together and it will count every KC no matter which kind it is. So the GP requirement on this is so ridiculous that I'm sorry to tell you this, but I had to liquidate my current Dragon Implant stock that I was buying for months, which came out to about 4 bill. Yeah, I'm still going to be going for the Bloodhound pet, but that will just be the last goal ever on this account, as it's feasibly possible but almost impossible, and I want to save the craziest things for a journey on this account as late as possible as the very last step and building block to the puzzle. I mean, once again, it's going to be like 700 bill to around a trill in Dragon Implants just to hit the average drop rate of the Bloodhound for Master Clues, and even though that's technically possible, it's a little bit out of reach for now, unless we just have some massive whales who are watching this video who want to drop that, which I'll get into that in a second. Go to my Discord if you want to give me some money. But I'm not expecting that at any time soon in the slightest. Along with just the 100 KC off the bat here for the Shroud, the main goal isn't even going to be the Shroud. It's going to be getting the TOB pet that obviously no level 3 has, or really any low combat level account. As well, I want the dust for this pet, which metamorphosizes the pet into all different variants of the bosses throughout Theater of Blood, just because it's cool to have, and why not? If I'm going all the way out for a TOB pet, I might as well go for the 1 in 275 tertiary drop, which is this dust, which is only achievable through hard mode Theater of Blood. And this is where the price of everything is going to go up a little bit. But as long as I have any form of point contribution, I should always get that 1 in 275 chance of achieving the dust. Unless I just died in every single room, this should be possible. If I also shoot for hard mode TOBs versus just regular TOBs, I'm going to be looking at a 1 in 500 pet drop chance versus the traditional 1 in 650 at a maximum point cap of 10 for the maximum pet roll. So by doing hard mode TOB, even though it's going to cost me a lot more for the leeches here, I'm going to be getting a better chance of the pet, although a little bit slower, and I'm going to be then, more importantly, getting a chance at that dust if I ever do get the pet, which is something I kind of want to knock out first off the bat. But because I want to do hard mode TOB, it's going to cost almost double the amount of money until I get that dust, and then I will probably switch back to normals for the 1 in 650 rate. And that's where the cost of this Shroud, even just getting the 100 KC, much less the pet possibly, is going to come into play. So who helped me with this was Fool's Boosting. I shouted them out in the last video if you want to check that out. But really, I couldn't find a consistent and reliable team anywhere else to do this. Each hard mode TOB kill credit through this method costs 72 mil on average because it's a full carry without any help from my account. This is because also there's 4 other very elite gamers having to carry my level 3 in a 4+1 hard mode TOB, and they have to meet a challenge time threshold to even get the kill credit for the hard mode TOB and the extra chance at the tertiary dust drop. Luckily, Fool's Boosting hooked me up with that promo, and they gave me half off per kill for the ad segment, being 36 mil a kill, so 3.6 bill entirely for me for 100 KC, or if I was a normal person without doing that favor for them, it would have been 7.2 bill, which I just don't have at this time. So with this team, I was looking at an average kill time of 23 minutes per kill, and that meant 23 hours of boosting on average just for this tier 1 cape, and a slight chance at the pet and a slight chance at the dust. Once again, there was also a challenge timer of 25 minutes we would have to meet on the overall raid time, which honestly was a little bit tight at times, and there were a few times we failed this. I also suffered many deaths inside of this raid, as to reach the point cap of 10 points for a max pet chance would not always be possible and would not happen every single time. Sometimes I would come out with 8 or even 5 points, which would slowly decrease the pet chance based on a multiplier from around 1 in 500 initially to being something more like 1 in 1,250 or even 1 in 2,500 with 2 deaths possible, as 2 deaths actually was the most I did die throughout my entire hard mode TOB runs. So not every time am I even getting the full 1 out of 500 pet chance, but I am, as long as I have some points, still always getting that 1 in 275 dust chance, as long as we're completing within the challenge time. So long story short and summarizing, I'm going to need to survive, use unique strats never really seen before, maybe seen in very niche scenarios, and have a high-powered elite team of baddies and a handful of cash to pay them to get this done. But yeah, on average, if I'm going for the dusted top pet, I'm looking at a rate of about 18 bill for 500 KC. That is if I get half off discounts, and 36 bill for the full price from leeches, and a lot of the boosters time to acquire this. And that's just at average drop rates. It could get a lot worse than that. If I account for deaths decreasing my point cap, then we could even be looking at 20 bill half off and maybe 40 bill full price for the average drop chance for both of these items. But let's say I go insanely 3 times dry on the pet, and that's still even at full price. Yes, this sounds insane to say only, but it would only be about 120 bill to reach that almost 100% guaranteed dust and pet chance. Why I say only 120 bill is that's actually a much more feasible pet goal than the Bloodhound, which, like I said earlier, is looking something around like 700 bill on average. So I mean, even if we go 3 times dry, we're still 1/7 of the cash stack required to get a very, actually, honestly, almost cooler looking and more unique pet on this level 3 account. But the Bloodhound is something I still want to strive for in the very, very long term, and I still will be striving for the skills required for master and elite clues later on, even in this video. And if you want to donate to the fund for the top KC, other combat achievements, or the Bloodhound pet eventually, please, I need your money. I'm begging for it at this point. Come in the Discord, I'll drop the link below, and there's going to be a text channel right under the general chat where you can contact me, donate to me, your favorite RuneScape content creator, or if you're really good at hard mode top and there's enough of you, maybe we can get together a team that's going to do this for me at a discount. If you can't give me your money, give me your time. Just give me everything you have. I'm kidding. I don't expect this, but like I said, there are some whales around and people with a lot of free time. So if you want to contribute, please stop by the Discord. I'll put the link in the description below, and anyone's going to be able to see that chat. So beware, there's probably some crazy cooked shit inside that Discord. FYI. I apologize. I don't use it except for when I'm obviously begging for money, like right now. So I'll get into more of the specifics of Theater of Blood and how each room was survived in later, and the exact calculations for how many points I got each run later on, but the average pet chance was definitely 1 in 500 and was possible. I also had a few normal TOB and hard mode TOB KCs earlier from combat achievement tasks you saw in previous episodes, and that's going to contribute towards me completing this entire 100 kill count. We should be able to get it done towards the end of this episode. But first, I wanted to get into the progress and what we kind of missed out on in some of the videos as I was skipping around. Very important things here, like mining, for instance. I'm kidding, but I wanted to include what I've been doing basically over the last few months on this account, as I haven't really paid any attention to it and I haven't mentioned it inside of these videos. I kind of just skipped over it. A lot of what I've been doing is for master clues. Once again, eventually I'll need the Bloodhound, but some of it as well is just for more combat achievements I'll be completing. As I found out, a lot of these PVM updates Jagex has been making tends to add a higher point threshold to my hard hilt that I have to keep maintaining, and I've had to get back, you'll see, 2 separate times inside this video. Yeah, I've already lost this thing twice due to the PVM updates, such as the bossing updates they added with Varlamore. So that's something I've been having to keep up with in the background, and you'll see some of that today. Eventually, I might want to overcome even every single possible combat achievement a level 3 can physically do, which should put me at a midpoint between hard and elite tier on the combat achievements. Maybe with updates or a way to somehow get past the Beneath Cursed Sands quest in the future, this could even increase to maybe a threshold of points I could barely get the elite hilt at. Although if somehow this was even ever done, I would probably not be able to maintain that elite hilt for very long. Another goal of mine short term on this account is I also want to wipe out every possible way to get Slayer XP before I actually train the skill through something like using alt accounts and going into the wilderness. So I want every possible Slayer lamp, and that's going to include even the ones from Fossil Island by turning in all of the fossils, which takes a lot of time in itself. As well, I practically already wiped out almost every single lamp quest and was able to get a lot of Slayer from that, along with the lamps from combat achievements and some lamps just variously through random events and other tasks in the game. I want to wipe out these Slayer levels early because genie lamps and randoms are going to come to me often, and I can get some passive Slayer XP, as I want to avoid actually using the alt Slayer and getting my Slayer up till close to the end of this account. Eventually I will need about 83 Slayer to do some of the clue steps, but I'm going to hold off. I'm going to go for an untrimmed cape with Slayer on this account, I believe, and get 98 capped at everything, but I'm going to hold off to the very last moment and hope that Jagex just adds an easy escape way out to training this on a level 3. I wouldn't be surprised if some minigame hit someday that had like a 10k XP per hour that's semi-AFKable, which I would honestly choose over like a 20k XP per hour alt method with 5 accounts in the wilderness and having to deal with that for 6 months, which it would literally take me probably 6 months to pull off 99 Slayer on a consistent schedule. Besides all the 98 stats, I'm also going to try and remain 59 agility, not 60, because that unlocks Bloodveld tasks in the wilderness, and I do not want to actually have to take on Bloodvelds, as apparently Bloodvelds in the God Wars dungeon of the wilderness is not the worst task but not the best task, and we're going to be trying to cut off as many tasks as possible through not starting Dragon Slayer, not getting certain levels, and making sure we just do everything properly in the preparation of finally taking on Wilderness Slayer if we absolutely have to. Speaking of agility, I couldn't even get the full rogue set because I was only 2000 XP off of 60 agility after doing every single agility quest and getting my blue colored graceful. I was getting about 500 XP drops at the end of every single rogue's den run, and if I was to go for the full rogues outfit, although I did get one piece being the top, which actually has some good magic defense bonus, I couldn't go for the whole set probably until years from now, because once again I don't want 60 agility, and that's going to come even after 99 Slayer, so we're not going to have the rogue set for probably about 2 or 3 years probably at this rate. Some agility shortcuts also give XP, but I'll have to watch out for those in the future, and I would have to jump a lot of shortcuts to get the remainder of 2000 XP till the next level. Speaking of doing everything in a specific order, I did accidentally complete Death on the Isle a couple episodes back and took a thieving reward from that. Ended up getting my thieving past 40, meaning I'll now be getting undead pirate tasks eventually in the wilderness. As well, I was already getting magical axes, so those are 2 tasks I really don't prefer to have, but I've already raised my thieving level, so I might as well do some quest and raise it up some more that I've been kind of holding off on till now. Also, in the progress of today's video, you'll see I just want to max my quest points quite a bit more. Eventually I want to get to the cap, which I believe right now is 139 quest points for me. Maybe with a few more updates put into place, I'll be able to pull off 150 quest points for 3 blocked Slayer tasks, which is actually going to be really good for Wilderness Slayer. So maybe if they come out with just a few more easy quests, then I'll be just barely able to hit that quest point threshold. And all the other level 3s are like 10 less quest points than me, because I do have a series of quests done that no other level 3 has either the ability to do anymore or has not taken on the challenge to do anymore, and that's like Priest and Peril, Creature of Frankenstein, Shades of Morton, Garden of Tranquility, Perilous Moons, Fremennik Trials, and even the new meet and greet quest. I think I'm still the only level 3 to do that. Maybe one day I can even finish off Heart of Darkness. I'm kind of looking into that, but that's going to be likely impossible. But that would put us at 140 quest points, still 10 off the 150 cap, but closer to it. Another quest I looked into possibly starting was the Throne of Miscellanea quest, since I did technically have the Fremennik Trials quest done, and I could get to the Miscellanea Island because of this. Typically, you also though need Heroes quest to start this, but the Hero's Quest check start is actually at this door upstairs in the Miscellanea Castle, not at the actual quest start NPC. So technically, if I ever found a floor 1 no clip, I can move through this door, probably just go talk to the king and start the quest that way, as there's likely not even a check there for starting the quest, more so just the guard at the door telling me I need to be a hero. That would allow for my skiller to have yet another quest point, adding to the unique collection of quests this level 3 has, but that's a long shot, and a no clip is one of the few glitches I've still yet to ever come across in this game personally myself, at least one that's been usable. Another hypothetical is if I could once again get the magic boost like I did in my Defense Pier series on my defense account to 26, finish off Elemental Workshop 2 quest for yet another quest point, and wear the Mind Helmet even, which would be a cool cosmetic to have on a level 3. Something I'm going to be looking into in the future, but probably not very likely as well to happen from here on out. So even if I can't do those 3 more quest points in the mix at some point or another, there's going to be more updates and more quests added along the way, like they always do lately, especially with big content releases like Varlamore. And eventually I think I will get that 3rd task unblocked before I take on Slayer. Looking at the timeline of things right now and how much I want to pet over anything else right now versus, you know, the Master Clue grind and the Slayer grind. Let's get back to reality though, and for now I was focusing on the thieving quest that I left untouched, and all the agility quests, like I said, were already completed, so I don't have to worry about getting XP there. I now could start though and finish Tribal Totem, then went into the Rat Catcher's quest, the Queen of Thieves quest, the new quest in Varlamore Ethically Acquired Antiquities, and lastly the Feud quest, which did involve a little bit of complex mechanics such as me taking food off the table here with a 15-minute despawn timer in order to recoil this boss, and me taking food off the ground and unnoting it in order to recoil this other boss. If you ever watched my old videos, this boss used to be way more difficult than it was. It used to be immune to poison because of the text over its head, but nowadays it's no longer immune to poison. You can just throw a poison dynamite on it. It will despawn though if you get unlucky and the hits don't come on your character quick enough, because your recoil will only do so much damage. And you have a 5-minute timer to take this NPC down before he does despawn, which does still happen in this quest for both of the NPCs. So after finishing up the thieving quest, I went ahead and got my thieving to level 50 at Fruit Stalls. This was for the Heart of Darkness quest we took on in the last episode, and once again you can see that crazy of a video in the description below. I'll link it down there. After 50 thieving, I was still on the questing binge, to be honest, so I went ahead and completed some more quests for the time being, although there were some I still left untouched and did not yet hit that 139 quest point cap. The couple of quests I continued completing were ones such as the Depths of Despair, where I took on the Sand Snake, and the Ascent of Arceus, where I had to recoil down a bunch of NPCs. In both of these quests, the NPCs were instanced, so they didn't actually have to be poison dynamited. I didn't have to waste my poison dynamite on them. And speaking of poison dynamite, throughout the entire journey of the last 2 videos and throughout my skilling journey and these quests, I've been collecting poison dynamite at the Belladonna patch for quite some time now. I actually collected over now 2,500 stackable Nightshade, which I had been using for some poison dynamite in these quests and for some bosses you'll see later on. But I still am farming regular Nightshade out of the caves with the scavids, because I don't know, you never know when you're going to need stackable Nightshade, as I found out in the Perilous Moons video. If you didn't watch that, that was crazy. I needed to inflict certain amounts of damage and I needed inventory, so I used the stackable Nightshade to do that. After the questing binge was over, I decided to take on some Hunter, did some Black Salamanders till I could finally use a potion to hunt Herbivore at 80 Hunter, and here's where I spent nearly 100 hours hunting this damn pig, and no, I never got the pet. But after what seemed like forever, I got all of the fossils to finish up the Fossil Island Slayer Lamp XP grind that I was talking about earlier, and I turned them in for the last reward, putting me then at 59 and finally 60, ending me at 96, almost 97 Hunter, along with over 4,000 herbivores found, and once again, no pet. Never lucky, even in the slightest. That's almost drop rate, and I have over 3,500 of these hunted on my defense spear as well, which is well over the drop rate if I combine the 2 accounts. We're dry. Yet again, believe that or not, Rendi is not loved by Jagex. But either way, we finished up the lamp grind for Slayer here, and it put us at a nice even level 60 Slayer. Speaking of skilling, I also got some mining up on stars in this time period. I needed 85 mining anyways to mine rune ore for a master clue step requirement through Sherlock, but I did a lot of video editing, so this is where I found the time to mine, and I did even more editing than I expected. So I mined longer than expected, and I ended up getting 90 mining, not even stopping at 85. Starting at all the way around 60 from previous requirements for quests. So yeah, in the mix of today's video, there's a casual 100 hours of mining that's gotten past us. So like in the Heart of Darkness quest, I was spending a lot of time solely focused, solely stuck on one task at hand besides farming the Belladonnas, and that's where I lost something like my heart hilt on and off between that task and the Perilous Moons 2 separate times. So I would come back after doing a long grind such as Perilous Moons or such as after the Heart of Darkness, and then I would go and have to regain my hard hilt access because once again the bossing updates that Jagex keeps putting in and the hard combat achievement threreshold continuously eking slowly slowly up higher and higher. The first time was just a bit shy of me hitting the hard hilt cap, and I just finished off my 50 kill count at Corp, which was a task which allowed me to get the hard hilt back again. And then I ended up losing it again after the Heart of Darkness, and I had to go and do Chambers of Xeric challenge mode leeches, where I would just sit there for 40 to 45 minutes for around 25 KC, which was about 20 hours of once again AFKing while editing, that I was able to get the 25 KC kill count task credit in. As well, there were some kill count task credits that attributed to the normal version of raids, even though I was technically in the challenge mode. So there were a few points just altogether knocked off doing some kill count tasks through these CMs inside the Chambers of Xeric. Maybe someday I'll spend some more time here actually, and maybe even get lucky pulling a pet or a purple by doing just these slow leeches with only 5,000 points, because in challenge mode you get an automatic 5,000 participation points. And I could go for higher challenge KC, maybe a cape there someday as well. One day I want to do every possible combat achievement on this account that I can complete, and there are some higher KC ones there at Chambers, but going for every single CA is going to be a ways away and require many unique mechanics to take down a lot of the bosses, as well as sometimes just like a lot of time like this here, where pain and AFKing in itself is terrible because I'm having to sit there and find times where I'm busy doing something else, such as editing, to actually utilize the time here spent for the KC. So yeah, I literally just had to sit in the lobby the whole time during this and do absolutely nothing besides make sure I did not AFK log out. Very similar feeling to star mining, by the way. So because I had been collecting nightshades, I had some poison dynamite here, and there were more tasks I had to take on to regain my hard hilt, because once again there was a giant leap of point threshold cap whenever they came out with the new Varlamore bosses, as there were a few of them that came out all at once. I finished off getting my hard hilt back yet again by just doing some of the easy 1-point tasks, such as killing the giants in the Zaya cave, and things such as the Bloodveil task with the help of my ult. These were all 1-pointers, but it got me to once again be able to reacquire my hard hilt on this account and be the only level 3 with this hard hilt, because probably Priest and Peril and the Theater of Blood helped with tons of those points, to be honest. This was the first time I had the untradeable Emissary Robes along with the hard hilt both, and the combination of these two ultra rare untradeable items on a level 3. When I say ultra rare, I mean I'm the only level 3 with them. Once again, it looked amazing, and oh yeah, of course the fire cape, who can forget about that. From here I tried my hand some more at skilling and more quests. I got my base level rune crafting up by completing Temple of the Eye quest, and that got me to about 32 rune crafting. I then, just out of curiosity's sake, looked into moving into agility and possibly an AFK agility method I could utilize down the line. I thought I developed one that would be fully AFK in a PvP world while I could edit, but unfortunately I didn't even think that Brimhaven agility arena here isn't multi-combat, so technically it would not work out properly. Maybe one day though, when I get agility as my last skill, by that time Easy Escape will come into play. Jagex will have released something with a long AFK format and maybe 10k XP an hour in agility, which I would happily do over training agility normally. Agility, I will argue this to my grave, is probably the worst skill in this game. You also saw me do some tithe farm in the last episode in order to get the herb sack to complete some of the boss challenges in Heart of Darkness, hilariously enough, but that got me from 87 to 88 farming. I also went there a little bit longer than what I needed just for the sack, and I unlocked the weed perk, which means I don't need to rake anymore my patches for belladonnas, which sometimes would spring weeds on me in the small period of time between pulling one and planting another. I know it's the little things in this game, to be honest with you. I'm not really training farming anymore, but one day maybe I will, you know, get 98 farming from solely belladonna patches. I did get almost 87 to 88, to be honest with you, just from these patches over a long period of time. But I mean, we're looking at probably another 10 years of picking belladonnas consistently to get 99 farming, so I'm not worried about getting that as an untrimmed first anytime soon. For a few days I took what I would call a break as well from striving towards this high tier unique content. I learned how to 1.5 tick teaks at Fossil Island. That actually took me a fair bit longer than I thought it would to learn, and it was one of the hardest skilling tasks I've done by far. I also got some woodcutting levels. Eventually though, I'll still need 90 woodcutting with this lumberjack outfit I acquired earlier in order to do yet another Sherlock step with master clues when going for the Bloodhound pet. I also started on the smithing grind a bit just because I was bored. I was getting 70 smithing by using this anvil here and just some basic plate body smithing. One day I think I'll need 87 smithing for master clues or something like that. I can't even remember, to be honest with you, but probably the worst skill I'll have to get for elite and master clues would be something like 87 fishing for lava eels, and something else that I once again can't even remember exactly the level for, but that's going to be fun. Why I'm mentioning elite clues as well as master clue requirements, because I feel like I actually want to go for the elite clue reward from 200 elites as a level 3 before the Bloodhound, and maybe I could pull out master clues from the elite clue rewards to start off the master clue grind initially anyways, but that's going to be the heavy casket and no other level 3 has this. That in itself is probably going to cost around 70 bill in Dragon Implings, so not as crazy as the master clue Bloodhound grind, but once again, probably one of the very last things I'm going to be doing on this account just because it's possible. And the GP comes from the need for Dragon Implings if you're out of the loop here. That's where I get all the elite clues from. While I was skilling, I managed to also knock out 70 construction, which I didn't really need, but it was the fastest way to increase my total level, which was now actually getting somewhere. I started, I believe, around 42 construction, as that's what I had after nulling the attack XP from the Cold War quest. By the way, one-click construction now, thanks to Runelight, makes this skill actually bearable. Okay, so back to the Sinhaza Shroud and the Theater of Blood KC. Here I was on and off for a little over a month, knocking out 100 hard mode Tob KC. I wanted the Shroud, of course, but my main goal was the pet or even just the dust, so I can switch back to normal Tob KCs and spend a little bit less money. The strategy for completing hard mode Tob on my level 3, as we found out, was simple. Well, not really. I mean, it once again cost me 3.6 bill at half price. I then had to survive. They had to survive, which was even hard at some points in time. And they had to meet the challenge time of 25 minutes. For the first room Maiden, I would walk the back wall once again, just like a normal Tob, avoiding blood splatters while they took down the boss. And I made sure my HP was always over 15. So even if one blood splatter did hit my account, it would not kill me most of the time. I don't think I ever actually died in this room, not even once, so it's a good 3 points to participation to get right off the bat. For the next room being Bloat, at first I did participate in Bloat and I would join them for the extra 3 points, but I realized it was so easy to die in here in hard mode with the floor damage falling constantly, and death in terms of points was not really worth it. I don't think a lot of people know this, but if I died too soon, I would also lose room participation points, which was a negative 7 point reduction in points, which would kill almost all chances I had at getting the Tob pet. So eventually I decided to just stay out of the Bloat room entirely, as it wasn't worth the likelihood of death by flies from others even just messing up, or especially myself messing up, which was much more common. It didn't help that I was using European world ping because my entire team was from Europe and the UK, but I had to use them because these people are highly advanced specialists. Nilo was the other room I just could never survive, especially in hard mode. So in this third room of the raid, I would once again just stay entirely out. I mean, even if I stalled and made it to the Nilo boss phase past the minions, it would guarantee my death because red Xing the boss like I did in previous normal Tobs where I survived this room, it would not work in this version of Theater of Blood. With hard mode, the damage reflects off other players and requires specific death dot mechanics to not die, and because I would be red X'd and stuck in the middle of this boss, I'm not going to be able to death dot and be with my team, and I'll be taking chip damage and all other kinds of damage and just die in its body. So Nilo in hard mode for my level 3 might be possible in some really messed up sense, but through traditional means, through what it's worth, was not possible in the slightest. Even in normal Tob, Nilo was having to utilize almost a full inventory of hot rock cake stalls with phoenix necklaces, and then red Xing perfectly timing the Nilo boss, hoping he didn't just one-shot me. Even in normal mode, I would say Nilo wasn't worth it, but possible in hard mode, it just was neither. In this room as well was not where I had the most complications, but my team had the most complications too. They wiped the most in this room because even carrying just one extra person in a hard mode Tob where they're not even coming in the room, it increases the minions and they have to save the pillars, which in hard mode was very difficult, and there were a lot of times all the pillars in the room collapsed. I would say on average, this probably happened around 20% of the time, and we would just have to restart the entire raid. So kudos to them for bearing with the frustration here, as this was not your average hard mode Tob. I don't think any hard mode Tob is average, but this definitely was not the average. The next room was Sodaseg, which for me was personally the worst. I wasn't used to running the Sodaseg hard mode maze, but I would sit in the back and never be touched if I did stay in the maze past the initial run through of it. If I messed up one tile though, and didn't take it in time, it would be an instant death, which happened quite often, especially once again on European ping, trying to keep up with these baddies here. Therefore, I was placed on my team's leaderboard dead last to make sure if I wasn't chosen for the outside maze, I would be put in last on the inside maze, and they could just skip over the last few tiles if I was being too slow, dyslexic, and laggy. But yeah, if I could get through the maze and if I was in the inside of the maze, then I would just sit at the end till the next 33% was down of the boss and the next maze popped up. At the end there, I would be getting chip damage, but I would just eat through it with purple sweets, sometimes Guthix Rest if I needed to, and this would just barely put me over the chip damage even with only 10 hit points. This was safer and a better strategy because if I was to run out of the maze here and run back to the back, I would then be possibly targeted by Sotazeg with a melee attack, or even have to tick eat multiple ball attacks or a full-on Sotazeg ball and then hit that tick perfectly while making my way back. If I got selected outside of the maze though, I would simply, to speed things up for my team because I'm a slowpoke, use a hot rock cake guzzle to skip the entire maze. This was done by collecting hot rock cakes at the dwarf near Birthorpe, about 6 per day, and I would only get chosen very rarely on the outside of the maze, but I would have to use these occasionally. I would first keep my gloves on and guzzle the hot rock cake down to 1 HP, then unequip my gloves, equipping a P-neck, then finally doing a red X movement by switching my left click option on these restores I brought for my team here I'll drop later on, and do a red X run with the restore used on Sot. Right after pulling that red X run off and before throwing my account onto the damaging tiles, I would then use the stall of guzzling a hot rock cake, which is a movable stall and allows me to still move although you can't see it, and therefore the first damage coming up in the queue would be a 0 or a 1 from the hot rock cake guzzle, and everything else like the floor damage behind that and behind the stall would then come behind that 0 or 1, and null from the Phoenix Necklace, as a Phoenix Necklace naturally nulls all damage queued on your player. Once this was done, you would see a 0 or a 1 hit my character, and I would instantly time my running back once the maze floor had turned gray, but my run animation was sometimes a bit delayed, so it was hard to predict when the next tick heat from the Sot attack coming my way would be based on a visual reference. Sometimes there would be multiple hits too, including the giant ball later on, which could reach me from back in the room once Sot had initially targeted me here in the hard mode Tob. This didn't happen in regulars, but in hard mode, once I'm targeted for the first time, the ball is free range and free to kill me. I would sometimes rarely fail these tick heats, especially when the run and animation was well off from the rock cake stall, but as the attempts got further in, I would use combo eats with 0 delay to kind of safeguard the tick heat from a possible failure from a too early of a tick heat, such as by using a purple sweet 1 tick and then a Guthix Rest the next tick. One death throughout this raid, which most commonly happened in this Sot room, would lower my point threshold from 12 to 8, which once again I need 10 points entirely to get the maximum pet roll of 1 in 500 or 1 in 650 based on which kind of Theater of Blood run I'm doing. From there though, it scales down quite a bit. It could even go down to 5 out of 10 points with a second death in the next room being Zarpus. Before entering into Zarpus though, I would load off a bunch of supplies for my teammates carrying me here to continue into Zarpus and Verzik with a healthy inventory. I would also load off more supplies from the center of the room of Zarpus, which I had gathered from the chest in the Sotazeg room, such as hard eats like mana rays, sharks, and sometimes even a stamina potion. Going into Zarpus, I would have to make sure obviously to enter the room from the center because in hard mode the whole outer area is being collapsed by poison, and this could one hit me right off the bat if I just entered from the wrong position. As well, this meant there was less room to run around and kind of dodge the Zarpus attacks, and they would make sure and position themselves on opposite sides of Zarpus, and I would use this specific set of tiles, 2 tiles apart from each other, and slowly head diagonally back towards the entrance of Zarpus. Almost always, I don't even think there was one time, Zarpus would enter its screeching phase before reaching that last 3x1 tile and therefore stop its poison attack in time. Although, I would have to dodge a lot of poison at the same time, and sometimes my members' poison, because the room was smaller, would run into me and it would not be fun. But I managed most of the Zarpus rooms without death, although it was possible to die in here, especially with once again my ping being a little bit too high. Even though if I died on both Zarpus and Sot at this point, which sometimes rarely did happen, I could still get another 3 points from the Verzik room being next by using a stackable interface here, which counted as participation inside the room, along with the maiden points from the first room, allowing me to still be at a net positive 5 points after 2 possible deaths. That would put me at around a 1 in 2500 drop rate scaled down for the pet if I somehow did get these 2 deaths, but still a 1 in 284 for the tertiary dust drop, which was more hopeful at this point, and honestly more important because I wanted to get out of hard mode raids so I could pay a lot less money per raid. After sitting in the safe spot for Verzik with a stackable interface though, the hard mode TOB was completed, and now I would just have to repeat this 100 times, usually at around 23 minutes average total completion time per run, which once again sometimes we did not meet the completion time, but it was very rare. Now doing this 99 more times, I was hoping for a pet or at least dust, which has a pretty big probability once again of happening for either of these in 100 KC, being 1 in 500 and 1 in 284 drop chances on any chest, not just purples. Unfortunately, I did not get the dust or the pet. Yeah, I spent almost 4 bill and I got neither. But I did get 1 purple chest at around 20 kill count, and that was a Sanguinesti staff, which was kind of a cool collection log honestly, just to add to the level 3. I also ended up getting 2 tertiary drop table drops from hard mode TOB, adding to my collection log yet again, but unfortunately there were duplicates, the same item being unusable on my account, not the dust, and in fact being these sanguine ornament kits at a 1 in 150 drop rate each. So although we haven't yet achieved the pet or the dust, I feel like it's a somewhat reasonable pay stub. If I can get half off KC or find a team, I think we're looking at an average of 18 to 36 bill, and compared to the 1 trill I was looking at before, this is a little bit more hopeful. But once again, we're going to be going for even the unhopeful at a further date in the future, even if we have to do something like medium clues to get master clues and go down that rabbit hole. If you want to help contribute to all of the funds in this account and making it the most unique account possible, there are a lot of GP grinds on this account, so I'll link my Discord down below and you can come in there, or if you're great at TOB, maybe you can help me out, I don't know. But main things here we're focusing on: TOB KC for pet, dust, eventually some more combat achievements, maybe some more chambers of Xeric leeches, the heavy casket from 200 elite clues, which is an untradeable that no level 3 has, and then lastly that Bloodhound, which is almost an unreasonable goal, but I will do medium clues if I have to. So come in the Discord, hang out a bit, or go down into that text channel and contact me. It's going to be called TOB help and clue donations. I'll link that in the description below. Thank you all again for your support by just watching the channel, watching me again all of this time, all throughout this series. Please consider subscribing to the channel. It's the best way to support me. I'll be back though with some more unique level 3 content soon. And in the meantime, if you want to watch something more serious, if you like the environment here of these camera switch ups and me just talking to the camera, I have some new very serious raw formatted discussion videos on my side channel as well. I'll link in the description below, or you can just search it up, Rendi versus the World, here on YouTube. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all soon.